Bienvenidos and welcome to the Injury Prone Podcast. This is your co-host Jorge Martin, and hey, to my side, el doctor, Dr. Edwin Porras, mi amigo, ¿cómo estamos? It's Friday afternoon, week 2.
Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Jorge? We can have a whole debate. Do evenings start? So for you, it's afternoon. For me, it's 5 p.m. You're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. So it's afternoon for you. But when does evening start? Does evening start at 5 p.m., 5:30? What is the official word on evening versus afternoon? And if anybody knows, leave a comment and leave a comment about what time formally afternoon shifts to evening, because I kind of want to know.
Well, you know what? Did you ever have that conversation with your parents? You know, when you say buenas tardes, buenas noches? So
that's a classic conversation. That's the conversation that piggybacks the saluda, cabrón. When you get in trouble, you walk in, you don't say anything. You're like 12 years old. You don't know any of the adults in the room, and they want you to give like a formal greeting to everybody. I think I don't know if that's universal across cultures. That's definitely a Latin culture thing. It's like you could have you could not know this person, at all. You have no idea who they are. You have no idea why they're in your house. You're just trying to come home and go to your room. But if you don't say hi, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Yeah, man, you give me every week. You give me flashbacks. Sometimes they're good flashbacks. Sometimes they're bad flashbacks.
I got one more for you. This was a famous one in my house. You know, whenever you would say put yourself into a group with, kind of like into a lineup with other people. And it's like, instead of saying, Edwin and I'd say me and Edwin, and my mom, if I would put myself first, my mom or my or pop would say el burro primero, and just like
I like that.
Oh man. So, okay. All right. So we're off to a great start. Well, you know what? I think people are already having happy hour in your neck of the woods. So I think I think it's evening. It's heck. You know what? Out here in California, people are already doing happy hour anyway. So hey, it's buenas tardes. It's buenas tardes. So it's buenas tardes of week 2. So well, first off, I want to make sure. Hey, you know what, everybody? I'm gonna give Edwin the floor right now. You guys want to be in the Injury Prone Patreon? Come on, mi amigo, díganos.
Yes. So the Injury Prone Patreon is basically everything every mention that I've ever gotten in the last 5 years, all the questions, the start sit decisions, the should I trade for, should I trade, should I trade away, should I cut, should I stash, what do I do with this guy? What is your recommendation? What is your projected time frame? What is the timetable that we're looking at? Like, what can we expect from a performance perspective? All of that, including the season-long playbook, which is every position and every major injury. You're going to get how long they're usually out, what percentage of time most players miss. So in other words, 10% of the time they miss 0 games, 90% of the time they miss 2 games, right? You're going to get that. You're going to get how volatile they are. So you get some mathematical calculations that are explained in that guide to, they're this percent volatile, or, I know a lot of people want to quantify how risky is this decision. I tried to do that in this guide. I tried to give you an answer to how risky starting a guy versus sitting a guy is. You get how many fantasy points per game that position averages when they come back from the injury. You get all of that, plus a Q&A, plus basically the ability to ask me questions all throughout the week. You get the recommendations, so all the transactions that I could potentially recommend, trade away, target aggressively, all that kind of stuff. Again, all of that in the Patreon. I really want to build a community of people who are reasonable and, want to have a smart, articulate conversation beyond the Twitter character limits. And it's not free, but I have to say, I'm putting the time and the effort. I put a lot of time and energy and effort. I feel like $9 a month, Jorge. I feel like that's more than reasonable to ask. I understand that that's a lot of times that's not possible for people. But if you can jump in there, $9 a month, that's 2 Starbucks drinks or 1 Starbucks drink, depending on how big you go with your order. So I just wanted to give that a plug. I wanted to throw that in there. Jorge's in there. We're going to start rolling on those. The community's slowly growing, and we're going to start getting some good conversations in there. You're also going to get priority with questions, and we're actually going to use one of the Patreon questions to answer that has to do with Cooper Kupp later on. So that's enough of that. Let's get started.
No, definitely. You want to get in there. Heck, you know what? I feel lucky just, having this one-on-one with you once a week. And, everybody, nuestra gente, come on, let's get into that community, grow that community, because you know what? You follow 20,000 people follow Edwin. So there are reasons why these people, to get that one-on-one information, hey, it's priceless. It's priceless. Come on, it costs more to go to McDonald's now. So just let's get in there. And so also make sure hey, we're almost at 100 followers on 100 subscribers on YouTube. Give us that follow, por favor. Come on, get in there. You're getting this every week. Every week, you're going to get that notification set up. We see you all watching. We know that more than 100 people are watching this. So some of our shows have gotten really, really big views. So thank you for joining us. But yes, hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep growing. So Edwin, we're going to start with the story of the week. And gosh, the guy made it to 4 plays, and then it just blew out the Achilles. So Aaron Rodgers had his ACL surgery, Achilles surgery, where with Dr. Neil Elatrash out here in my backyard, my former colleague at the Dodgers. So he's still the team surgeon for the Dodgers and the Lakers. So to have, coincidentally, he also performed the Cam Akers surgery. So, which got him back 5.5 months. I don't think we're expecting anything like that, but a guy to have this at almost 40 years old. I mean, can you describe what the rehab is looking like ahead for him?
Yeah, so it's not going to be easy, right? But we do know that Dr. Neil Elatrash did the repair. We assume it's called a mini open repair. When you have a mini open repair, really the biggest difference is that you're able to start weight bearing, so putting weight through that foot, starting rehab a lot more quickly. As you hear my dog whining and scratching, I don't know why. Sorry about that. But you begin rehab a lot more quickly, right? The other component you have to look at it is he is, like you said, almost 40 years old. For Cam Akers, he was 21, 22 years old. That tissue viability, that tissue health, that tendon health is a lot more positive at that point. Not to say that somebody 40 years old is decrepit and falling apart, especially him, right? He's still an elite level athlete, but your tissue just doesn't respond as quickly. But I will say 5 months is possible for Aaron Rodgers. It is on the table. I don't want to say it's the most likely scenario. I don't want to say that it's, going to happen slam dunk. 5 months though, for a quarterback, because he's not moving in the pocket. He doesn't depend as much or at all on explosiveness, on quick change of direction or anything like that. 5 months is possible. Don't rule it out, but that would really mean like the Jets would have to be like Super Bowl bound for him to really come back. That's the problem. So he said today on Pat McAfee, don't rule out a return in 2023. I would be skeptical of that. I don't really think that's going to happen. I don't think that would be the case. But again, it is plausible. So we just wanted to point out, Aaron Rodgers done for the season on the IR. So we just wanted to get that one out of the way so that people don't question why we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, and I think your dog didn't you say that your dog had Aaron Rodgers in a Superflex league, and that's why
yeah, exactly. My dog had Aaron Rodgers in a Superflex league, and so she's not very happy that I'm talking about it again. She's still upset. She hasn't gotten over it. She's climbing all over my wife right now. So my wife's trying to take care of the dog. Thank you, Holly.
Well, you know what? It's definitely a tough one, and hell of a rehab. But you know what? He got one of the best doctors in the country to take care of that surgery, and we'll almost have Ed. We're going to follow it. I don't think he's done either. Don't think he's done. So next up, I want to go to the running backs. So let's go to the running backs. A lot of intrigue, especially starting again in my backyard with Austin Ekeler. He missed 3 days of practice this week with that ankle. It hasn't been described officially as a high ankle sprain, but it's not looking good, mi amigo.
No, it is not looking good. They've already listed him as doubtful. He didn't practice all week. That's not really great. We kind of got the sense this was going to be the case. There is some video showing that it could have been a high ankle. It's hard to really say. I don't want to say that I know for a fact that that's what it was, but sort of the way that he landed and the angles that we had available, it looked like it very well could have been a high ankle sprain. So what are we looking at? If it is a high ankle sprain, the mode, otherwise known as the most frequent amount of time that guys miss since 2016 running backs, it's actually, there are two modes. So it's bimodal is what you call that. They miss 0 games frequently or most frequently, or they miss 3 games most frequently. So he might fall into that bucket of missing 3 games if this is a high ankle sprain. Don't hit the panic button. Don't freak out, because there's still a chance this could be a lateral ankle sprain. with a lateral ankle sprain, it's very, very rare that guys miss more than 1 week, and he could return in week 3. What I would say is plan for somewhere between missing Austin Ekeler for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't think at this point right now that we know of, I don't think it's going to be a long-term issue. And let's talk about a little bit. I think I want to hear your thoughts on Josh Kelce, because I think we disagree a little bit on this. And I tweeted about it, but you were telling me before we hit record your thoughts on Josh Kelce and whether he's a must start in most leagues. So what do you think of that? What do you got on that in week 2 for Josh Kelce?
Well, compadre, I wish I could say good things, because I loved what Joshua Kelce did last week. I thought it was fantastic. Me being a UCLA fan, I watched him play in his college years, rooted for him with the Chargers. It looked like a breakout game. It definitely looks like he's going to get the opportunity. But you know what? I put out there on the Yahoo Roundtable yesterday that I'm sitting Joshua Kelce, and the reason why I'm sitting Joshua Kelce, it's not opportunity. It's the fact that he's going up against Stonewall this week. The front seven for the Tennessee Titans is one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. They were number 1 in rushing defense last year, allowed the fewest rushing yards allowed. And, it's the same unit again. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to put the ball into Justin Herbert's hand, because on the flip side, they're the worst pass defense last year. And you know what? They just had Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Michael Thomas just go all over them last week. And I think now you got Justin Herbert with a healthy Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Everything looks good with him. I mean, we don't have him on the list to talk about today, but he did take a hell of a hit last week. So and those guys, I would have liked Ekeler to be a part of that passing game, but I'm really think it's going to be wheels up on Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and maybe a breakout game for Quentin Johnston or Joshua Palmer. I think just it's going to be all passing all the time. I think it could be 40 plus pass attempts and the Chargers winning big.
I think it actually could be. I don't think we disagree. I actually think that both things can actually be true. And maybe that does mean that ultimately we disagree. We'll let the listener decide what they want to do. Ultimately, we have Elijah Dotson, who's a rookie. He's 5'9" and 200 pounds. He wears number 42. You know he can't be successful. He wears number 42. That's obvious. That's obvious. A direct correlation there. And then Isaiah Spiller, who somehow is listed 4th on the depth chart. So after coming in and having a year on the rookie Elijah Dotson, who wears number 42, Isaiah Spiller's number 4 on the depth chart. So you have Josh Kelce, Elijah Dotson, who wears number 42, and Isaiah Spiller, who couldn't beat out a rookie, is 4th on the depth chart. There's no other place, Jorge. They can't pass the ball every down. There's no other place that ball can go. You also have to consider, if they are airing the ball out, if the Titans can't match points, which I don't think the Titans can match points, what are they going to do when they're trying to ice the game away? Hand off right, hand off left, hand off right. Turn over Ryan Tannehill again, get the ball at the 5, hand off left, Josh Kelce touchdown. I think that there's enough room for the passing game to be successful and be a funnel the way that you're talking about, and for Josh Kelce to still pay off, considering you got him on waivers for, I don't know, $20, $30, especially if you went like an anchor RB strategy. I just don't know how you don't start Josh Kelce if you got him on waivers, right? Like if you went anchor RB with Austin Ekeler and you've got, who's your second running back? Like, God forbid, Dios mío, if you did J.K. Dobbins as your second running back, you are absolutely starting Josh Kelce, right? Like, there's no way around it to me. Obviously, if you're really lucky and you have a solid roster and a backup plan from that, then that's one thing. But I think that you have to really assess your situation. And again, listener, you decide, should I start Josh Kelce? Should I not? But I do think that there is room for both things to exist here with the Chargers.
Okay, we're going to see how it plays out. But you're right. It's even the running back market right now, it's looking like 1:45 in the morning at the club. It's late, and it's not looking good. So let's go over to Green Bay. We all saw the video of Aaron Jones grabbing his left hamstring as he was scoring that long touchdown. He came out of the game. They were icing that game away, but it's the practice participation this week. How's he trending?
Yeah, so Aaron Jones has not practiced. You have to remember Aaron Jones is 29, right? 28 or 29. And that matters because the older you are, the harder it is for you to get over this hamstring strain. This is a recurrence for Aaron Jones. He had a hamstring strain in 2019 that didn't really stop him when he was much younger than he is now. He's not decrepit, but again, when you're in the NFL, 28, 29 is you're really getting over the hill there, especially at the running back position. It takes longer for your tissues to heal. it just sort of is what it is, unfortunately. So he hasn't practiced all week that we know of. We haven't gotten practice reports back for this hamstring stuff that he's dealing with. But, it doesn't look like it's trending in the right direction. And I pulled up the practice reports right now. He was a DNP. They're calling him questionable. Is he a guy that can come back and play without any practices? Probably. Should I expect it? I don't necessarily expect it. Running backs on average since 2018 have missed one game, a little over one game with a hamstring strain. So I would anticipate that he's back next week, unless, again, you're going to talk a little bit. I know you have a question about like conservative versus not, but as of now, there's a chance that we see Aaron Jones back week 3, but I wouldn't anticipate he's in the lineup for week 2.
And, speaking of conservative, I mean, I've heard on multiple podcasts that the Green Bay Packers are a little bit more conservative when it comes to their the injuries and their training staff, maybe holding guys out an extra game to make sure 100% that they're fine. With this being a soft tissue injury, I mean, where kind of like what's your stance on teams being, and do you agree on the Packers and teams being conservative versus aggressive?
I think generally speaking, most teams lean aggressive, and it's all relative to the conversation, because when you have to get a guy back in 1 week, you'd be surprised how much guys play through. I think if we really knew, and if the general public really knew how much dudes are actually playing through, then athletic trainers and PTs in the NFL would get a 2x, 3x salary bump. That's really the honest truth. So are the Packers more conservative than other teams? When I stop and think about it, I don't have any data to back it up, but it does kind of seem like they are. They took a long time with Davante Adams' turf toe in 2019. That's one particular thing that stands out to me. They held him out a couple practices in 2020 as well with the calf, and I remember seeing reports saying that he could actually play if he had to. So they are a little bit more conservative. I do think that's for me, philosophically, as a physical therapist, as a sports PT, I actually do think that's probably the right move. But again, it's really hard to justify that when there are so many hands in the pot, when you have the GM, the assistant GM, the coach, right, the owner, you have the head athletic trainer, you have the staff PT, you have S&C, right? There are so many hands in the pot that it's hard to really say how, for one decision maker, for one person to be the decision maker, that's just not realistic. So I think at worst we see Aaron Jones miss 2 weeks, but I do think that he has a chance for next week.
Okay, and him, if he does end up missing, AJ Dillon is wheels up, because the Falcons are not a good run defense, and so that one I am going to go for the backup on that one. So we're pouring one out for J.K. Dobbins. I mean, just horrible luck. 2021 gets the preseason torn ACL, and then he first game out after he scores a touchdown, tears his Achilles. For running back, I mean, we saw Cam Akers come back, but really, I mean, how hard is this coming on the heel, practically on the heels of becoming healthy from the torn ACL?
Yeah, it's just, you're sick for this guy. This is super unfortunate. Who knows what the deal is? Who knows why? You could ask 100 questions. Is it the workloads? Is it him trying to come back last year? Is it the knee that was just never came back and there was stress on tendons down the stream? We don't know. We'll never know. That's the unfortunate reality. I do think that it's an uphill battle for J.K. Dobbins. That's really all you need to know. It's going to be an uphill battle. There's a very low chance that he makes it back in 2023. I think 2024 should be the target for him. And I don't know what to do with his backfield at this point. Unfortunately, I mean, Gus Edwards, probably the closest thing you have to a bell cow in this backfield. I don't know what you think.
I put more money on Gus Edwards in Fab this week than Justice Hill. I think more of the track record. He's the bigger back, more north-south guy. He's kind of like that banger that John Harbaugh likes, and I mean, he's got more of a track record with the team. So, and plus he did better. I mean, he 32 yards on 8 carries, where Justice Hill got 9 carries on 9 rushing yards on 8 carries. So. But I'm going to monitor this, because they also have Melvin Gordon in there, and there's still guys looming out there. Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, guys like that are still out there that could be. Or you know what? Do they trade for Jonathan Taylor? Ooh. I think you put that on you, but that would be sexy. That would be sexy.
That would be nice.
Oh man. Well, I think it's time now to go to the wide receivers, and Puka Nacua the breakout sensation from week 1. A lot of people spend a lot of fab money on him, and then comes up on the practice report with an oblique. What's kind of your prognosis?
Not surprising. I think an oblique can be a couple of different things. It could be what Jalen Waddle is dealing with, or it can be from a contact thing. We assume that the oblique strain is from sort of your obliques run this way. This way you have obliques. They're essentially your ab muscles and your muscles that run along your ribs. If you're ripping and rotating a lot, which he was with a 40% freaking target share or something crazy, that's going to happen when you're a rookie and you're not used to playing at that speed, at that intensity for that long. That's going to happen. This is unsurprising. Sean McVay did come out and say that they expect him to play. I don't necessarily think that's unreasonable. He's slightly more volatile, maybe like minimal to moderately more volatile. But if you blew your fab on Puka Nacua, I mean, you got to start him this week. You probably have to start him. So just throw him out there. And I do think that he can still be productive. Just understand that there is some slight volatility for re-injury risk.
And I do like him this week because the Rams are going to have to throw the ball, because the 49ers are going to score some points this week. And I think and when I was talking about Tennessee, the 49ers are right there with the Titans as the best run defense in the league. So I don't think it's going to be hard for Kyren Williams and Cam Akers to get loose this week. So the Rams are going to have to pass the ball. So wheels up, Puka, and Tutu Atwell. I'm not giving up on Van Jefferson just yet. So let's look at that one. Now, Deontay Johnson. So it's sounding like a bad hamstring. Mike Tomlin said multiple weeks. He didn't go on IR like Cooper Kupp. Is that encouraging?
So I'm sorry. So in terms of Deontay Johnson, this has been sort of I don't want to call it a frustration. It's probably a little dramatic. But the reports on him came from Gary Dulac, I think is how you say his last name, is that the recovery will be, quote, up to 4 weeks. When I hear that, I automatically think of the statistic that I looked that's in the season-long playbook. Again, you can join on the Patreon, and it's right there for you. Since 2018, wide receivers of this profile, they miss more than 3 games. I'll say it this way, 3 or more games. They miss 3 or more games just 11% of the time. They miss no time 52% of the time, and they miss 1 game 21% of the time. Right? At worst, it seems like Deontay Johnson will miss, maybe he'll miss 3 games. But really, Deontay Johnson is the walking, I said this on Twitter, he's a walking Kevin Nash gif. The gif where Kevin Nash gets rolled to the ring. He's got a blanket with a wheelchair, right? He's got his leg up, and then he pulls the blanket off and he stands up. That is Deontay Johnson. That has been Deontay Johnson's career. So I'm not saying that he's not injured. I'm not saying that he's faking it. I'm saying that he can be a little dramatic sometimes. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. So the up to 4 weeks is like, yes, could it go 4 weeks? Yes, it could. But I just went through this with, even when Adam Schefter was saying that Jerry Jeudy could be out 6 to 8 weeks, I came out on Twitter. I said, I don't think that's the case. And lo and behold, we have Jerry Jeudy coming back next week after I think it was 3 weeks, right? So hold your breath. You can go ahead and hold your breath on Deontay Johnson. Don't freak out. Don't drop him. I've gotten a lot of people on Twitter saying that they dropped him. Don't drop Deontay Johnson. Keep him on your bench. At worst, I think we see him come back week 5. I do think that like a week 3, week 4 return though is realistic.
Yeah, there are people, me included. I've got a lot of Deontay Johnson. I also have some Jameson Williams where I knew I was going to have to sit him for 6 weeks and going to see how long. Yeah, do not drop Deontay Johnson. Just do not drop Deontay Johnson. This week, it could mean big things for Pat Freiermuth, who I just traded to you in the injury prone league, and also, but especially for George Pickens. So big things coming for those guys. We talked about the Packers earlier. Christian Watson looks like he's trending toward. Does it look like he's trending toward missing another week?
Yeah, it looks like Christian Watson is trending towards missing another week. Looking at the practice reports again, it does look like he didn't practice today. But again, they're calling him questionable. I don't necessarily expect Christian Watson to go this week, but I do think that next week, especially. Oh, let me correct myself, Jorge. He was a limited participant this week, today. Christian Watson was limited. So I will say, if he comes back this week, if he plays this week, he is highly volatile. I think in most circumstances, unless you got extremely unlucky and you hit the lottery and you have Cooper Kupp, Deontay Johnson, and Christian Watson, and Jerry Jeudy, you're probably having to start Christian Watson and Jerry Jeudy, both of them. If you have the luxury and the availability, if Christian Watson is active, I am not putting him out there. Going 2 DNPs followed by an LP and then going out to be the number 1 wide receiver in an NFL game is extremely risky because there's already a 34% recurrence rate. We do not want him in our lineup. If there's a recurrence, I would shy away from him in DFS specifically. And in most leagues, even if he's active, I probably would not start.
Oh, and I've got so much Christian Watson, and it's 2 a.m. at the bar when on who I have at the bench. So not looking pretty. But but you're right. And especially it being the first game of the season, the first game that he's played in almost 10 months. So hard to expect to put him out there for like that. Last wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins has popped up on their injury report this week. What he's not much for the Titans.
Yeah, so DeAndre Hopkins, this has been a little bit interesting to deal with because he's a guy that doesn't really practice, like legitimately. If you have copies of the injury report from past years, he is literally a DMP, or LP across the board. He almost never practices on Wednesdays, and he's pretty notorious for just not liking practice, which is fine, whatever. It is what it is. So when he actually had an injury, and there's a video of it where he lands and it looks like he has an eversion type injury, which would be classified technically for our purposes as like a high ankle sprain. It's concerning. So he hasn't practiced all week. You're going to really want to watch the practice reports or the final 90 minutes before kickoff, the actives and actives for this one. But even if he's active, it's really hard to throw him out there because that injury did look legitimately serious. I think that if he's your wide receiver 3-4, maybe you can, wide receiver 3 flex, maybe you're fine with it. But in most circumstances, I'm probably not going to touch DeAndre Hopkins in DFS this week. And I might even go out on a limb and say, Chig Okonkwo, Treylon Burks, they could have an uptick because like you said, they're going to be chasing points most of the game against the Chargers. So we'll see what happens. Stay tuned to the Patreon on this one. Stay tuned to Twitter on this one. I'll continue to give updates.
I almost missed one guy. You touched on him earlier, Jerry Jeudy, the last of the wide receivers that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, opposite boat as Christian Watson. The Broncos were pretty smart with this, in my opinion, that he was almost going to go. And I think a lot of guys on a lot of teams may have played last week. He would have been limited, and he wasn't. So that's really good. That means that they waited an extra week. Even though he's still at risk for a re-injury jumping into a game, I don't think he's at as much risk as Christian Watson if he is active. So Jerry Jeudy, I'm putting him in most lineups.
I think so. And wherever I'm with you, and wherever I have him, they need that. There were a lot of people talking about Marvin Mims having a breakout game. He saw 8 snaps last week, so they want Jerry Jeudy to come back and be a part of this offense. I think it's going to be, I'm definitely looking to start him. Okay, we're going to close out with the tight ends. So Travis Kelce, other than not giving his number to Taylor Swift, things may be trending up in other directions, right?
Andy Reid said that Travis Kelce is going to be out there. Usually we trust Andy Reid. We do want to take some caution, I guess, but man, you got to get Travis Kelce. If Travis Kelce's active, you're going to play him. I think you might see some reduction in the amount of time that he stays in line and blocks. You'll probably see some snaps. They'll sort of sway the way that they really use him. I think he'll be out there for passing downs. I don't know if they'll use him as much for blocking this week. He might be slightly limited. He might be at like 85%, but I'll take 85% Travis Kelce over most of the guys that we just talked about in reality, right? So Travis Kelce's out there. That's really the short of it. Start him.
Yeah, 85% Travis Kelce. I take that over 99% of any tight ends, 100% tight ends in a lot of cases. I think you're playing him. I'm not expecting him to block at all. Not expecting any blocking at all. Another guy who is not expected to block at all, Mark Andrews. He kind of came up as a surprise, inactive last week. There's the talk of him coming back this week. I mean, your thoughts?
So the Ravens are another one of those teams that are, when you talk about conservative versus aggressive, they tend to lean on the conservative side because they do let guys go limited practice, LP, and then they actually will sit them. Whereas most teams, a lot of teams, if a guy goes LP, it's a slam dunk that they're going to play. Mark Andrews last week, he was limited all week and didn't end up playing. Came out on Saturday night. Ian Rappaport even said it was surprising. Most people were surprised. I was surprised, so I owe everybody an apology. I was wrong on that. I did mention, you could tell. I actually went back. I don't ever do this, and when I mean never, I never do this because I hate the sound of my own voice. I went back and listened to what I said, and I looked at my body language, and I heard what I was saying, and I could tell that I was uncomfortable giving the recommendation, but I didn't really have anything definitive. And I said I don't have anything definitive to tell you that this is going to be a problem, and it ended up being a problem. So it was a really weird situation. I'll watch the film, as they say. I'll get better. But Mark Andrews was a full participant in practice on Friday, which is a really good sign. Obviously, after last week, we can't say anything's a slam dunk. So make sure, again, you're checking the inactives, the actives. Make sure you're checking in on the Patreon. And I do think that he's going to go this week. And last, I don't want to get to it because we're running over on time. But I do want to say, I like Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers seems like a really good player. Zay Flowers was incredible for a rookie debut. Zay Flowers was a fun player to watch. Zay Flowers is probably a really, really good person. Zay Flowers is probably not going to get the target share that he saw in week 1 ever again this year. Maybe week 9, 10, but I think that there's a lot of manufactured, inflated production that we saw out of Zay Flowers. You have Rashad Bateman, who's still coming back, and I said this on Twitter, right? He ran a route on 48% of snaps last year, even though he was even limited last year. But even compared to last year, that was a 58% mark. So he ran around on 58% of routes in 2022. Week 1 was just 48%. Don't forget Rashad Bateman's coming back from that list rank still. So I think this offense is going to actually look totally different in week 5, in week 3 and week 4 than it did in week 1. So that's just something for you guys to pay attention to.
I'm 100% with you on Zay Flowers, but yeah, you're right. Mark Andrews is the guy when it comes to this offense. He's their Travis Kelce, so he's the number one guy. One guy that we had high hopes for was Darren Waller, and everything looked good until last week, leading up, the practice reports started looking and the injury reports weren't coming back very positive. What's the outlook for someone who's had such a significant injury history?
Yeah, so here's a significant injury history that George was mentioning. Darren Waller, since 2021, has been on the injury report with a knee or a back issue. I want to say it was 12 times. And then he had the hamstring last year. There are a couple of things that you need to consider with Darren Waller when it comes to his history. The back issue, that's low back issue, we presume, is not going away. That would make sense with some of the associated nerve stuff that he's talking about, probably the sciatic nerve stuff that he's talking about. Unfortunately, that's chronic. The other thing you have when you have a severe hamstring strain like Darren Waller has, you worry about scar tissue. You worry about some of the residual effects from your brain sensing, stress or trauma from an old injury that sometimes just doesn't go away. You can get nerve symptoms, burning, sometimes tingling. Honestly, like, to put it frankly, sometimes your butt cheek feels like it's tingling. It's really strange, right? Those sensations, I'm sure a lot of people have had them. So that's probably some of the things that Darren Waller is dealing with. And with that low back history, with the hamstring history, with everything that we know about him and being 31 years old, him being a big boy, right? Like, he's a big frame. It's just hard for me to really imagine him staying healthy. Now, is it possible that he could stay healthy? Yeah, absolutely. Is this something to panic about? Like, is this a new fresh injury? No, it's not that scary. It's not really on the level of like a Deontay Johnson, a Christian Watson, a Jerry Jeudy. It's not a scary injury in that way. It's more of a chronic outlook of how is he going to hold up, especially since we know he's going to get a ton of targets, get a ton of usage. How his workloads are going to spike, right? So how can he hold up? How can Darren Waller hold up? You have two options, in my opinion. You can hold Darren Waller. You can accept the risk, and you can say, yeah, I know that he's risky, but I'm going to stick for those points. I'm going to chase those points. And if he goes down, I'll just stream the tight end position like everybody else. Or you can get him now. I'd be interested to see, hey, Darren Waller, we just mentioned him, for Zay Flowers. I like Zay Flowers. I think he's going to be fine. At least we know that Zay Flowers, more than likely, barring crazy circumstances, will probably stay healthy. At least I get a wide receiver 2-3 out of Zay Flowers instead of 4 games of Darren Waller where he's a top 5 tight end. Like, those are your two options. You hold him or you trade him before his value could potentially take a dip.
I would hold him. I would hold them and just take my chances, but I would go and grab, maybe one of the young tight ends like a Luke Musgrave or Sam Laporta or Dalton Kincaid, somebody like that that could be on the waiver wire right now because, I want the upside that Darren Waller can give because he was drafted at a point where if he performs up to his level, he way outperforms his ADP. But yeah, I've said it before on this podcast, other places, best ability is availability. So, and if he's not available, it's not helping, but at least have a backup plan. Mi amigo. Okay, we went a little over. We started off with fun stuff. Let's plug that Patreon una vez más.
Yeah, if you go to my Twitter, it's the pinned tweet. Or honestly, you can just put it into your browser. It's Patreon/injury prone. I'm pretty sure. Let me do it myself so that I know. Patreon, very professional here. /injury prone, and it should pop up. And there it is. Yeah, it's www. Remember when everybody used to start every website like commercials at www. I don't think they do that anymore. But it's patreon.com/injury prone. You'll run right into it. That is exactly where you can find all of these conversations that are going to be continue. That community is starting to grow. We're going to continue to have these conversations all week long. You can get Tuesday updates, Wednesday updates, Thursday updates. If you want to know what to do with your lineup on Wednesday afternoon, we got you. We'll help you out in that space. Make sure you follow it. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Jorge Martin 17. I am at FB Injury Doc. Mexican candy of the week. Jorge, do you have one? Because if you don't, I have one.
I don't have candy, but Chocomil.
Oh, slam dunk. Abuelita
yes.
Chocomil?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. That's a good one to end
man.
on. I really like that. If you don't know about that Abuelita Chocomil, go. If you don't know, now you know. We told you. Go find your local carniceria, panaderia, your Mexican store, your bodega, whatever you can. Go get you some Abuelita Chocomil.
I'll put a picture on Twitter so you can look at it, familia. Oh my god! Hey, you know what? Mañana, Mexican Independence Day. What tequila are we toasting Mexico with?
Oh, I love Fortaleza, but that's really hard to find. Ooh. Cimarron, if you can get a Cimarron, that's a good. For our English speakers, that is Cimarron tequila or Fortaleza tequila.
Both solid ones. I mean, every once in a while I find a 1942 with some amigos, but I got a bottle of Centenario that I'm slowly working through that I'll have a little bit on, that I'm going to be sipping tomorrow. So
absolutely.
Salud a Mexico. Salud arriba Mexico. So mi amigo, let's close up shop. Okay. You can find him at FB Injury Doc. You can find me at Jorge Martin 17. And again, one more plug for the show on YouTube. Go to Injury Prone on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, get us over 100, and because I want to see us way past 100 by the end of this season. Muchas gracias for joining us otra vez arriba Mexico, and just get ready for week 2. Salud.